Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens continue to confuse regular Joe Schmoes as employees, and it doesn't seem to end. Guys, in today's episode, we've got Karens attacking people at airports, attacking others in Walmart, throwing tantrums. It's gonna be such a wild one, so I hope you enjoy the stories. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and hey, if you guys have your own crazy stories to share, the email link is gonna be posted right in the description box. So my story begins several years ago when I was a waitress at a Waffle House. It's not exactly an I don't work here, but more like an I don't work there kind of situation. So one morning after working a night shift, I stop at a gas station to get some gas before going home. I'm exhausted and I'm in my full uniform and everything, hat and apron included. I go to pay for my gas by pulling out my large wad of tips, which are mostly $1 bills. Out of nowhere, I hear this disgusted sound from the cashier, so I look up to meet her eyes. And here's the conversation. The cashier says, "You should be ashamed of what you do." Now, I was very tired and confused, so I say, I'm sorry, what? She then says, "You should be ashamed of being a stripper." Now, she was acting all holier than thou. And I say to her, "Wow, where did that come from?" She then tells me I need to leave, as she doesn't want trash in her store. I then tell her, "Lady, I'm a waitress. I'm in a waffle batter covered uniform." She then tells me, "I don't care. Get out." Now the manager, who was in the office right behind her with the door opened, then called her into the office and closed the door. I was still in shock when this lady comes flying out of the office mad with her purse. She was screaming every curse word under the sun at me, and she was really angry. The manager then comes out of the office and apologized for the woman's behavior, and said she'd been warned about it before, and he fired her on the spot. The manager gave me a free breakfast biscuit and some coffee for the trouble. I thanked him and paid for my gas. Now, I was still in shock when I got home and told my mom what happened. But the story gets better. So a few days later, I'm in the dish pit washing dishes when the same woman comes in to speak to a manager. Now, she didn't see me until she finished speaking with him. She looked me straight in the eye before turning red and rushed out the door. I then asked what she wanted, and he said she wanted to know if we were hiring. I then start laughing and explained to him that that was the woman from the gas station. She never came back. Guys, it would have been hilarious if that woman didn't see OP, and OP convinced her boss to let her conduct the interview. Also, this person in the comments says, most strippers cash in their ones at the end of a shift because the club needs change and they don't want to carry around singles. So there you have it. Just because someone carries around a lot of ones doesn't mean they strip, Karen. Relax. So I work at a rent-to-own furniture store right down the road from a Walmart. So come payday, I usually go straight to Walmart after clocking out. Our uniforms are black pants and jeans and various blue shirts. However, our shirts do have the company logo embroidered on the top left, near the collar. I've been mistaken for an employee a few times, but most people just laugh it off when I tell them that I don't work for Walmart. Yesterday though, this Karen wasn't having it. So last night, I was finishing up some shopping, and I hung around in the electronics section for a while, waiting for an employee to come help me, as I've been interested in getting a new phone. But they were absolutely swamped. No big deal. I go to push my cart, filled with a few items and groceries, and honestly, I just want to get out of there because the customer traffic is getting to be a little too much for me. Thanks to my crippling social anxiety, I don't do crowds. Now I'm trying to gently pass this woman, but her and her cart are right in the middle of the aisle, taking up as much space as she possibly could, and I barely ding the corner of it. She then says, "Excuse you," reeling back and regaining her balance as if I hit her with a brick. I then say to her, sorry. I then try to push past her again, and she says, "I've been waiting here forever." Now, she'd been waiting there maybe a minute, and she certainly hadn't been there when I got there a few minutes before. She then tells me, "There's a video game I need you to get for me." So in case you don't know, Walmart does keep all their video games locked in a glass cabinet, and you do need an employee to unlock it for you so they can grab the video game. The same goes for controllers, consoles, and accessories. I then point to the logo on my shirt and say, "Actually, I don't work here. I actually work for this store." The Karen sighs and taps her foot, and she says, "I don't care if you're on break or whatever, just get me this video game." Again, I tell her, I can't, I don't work here, you're gonna have to get an employee. She then says, "You are an employee." Now the woman's getting louder, and I tell her, no, I'm a customer shopping just like you, I'm gonna be going now. I try once again to push past her, and she says, I know the manager of the store, and they won't be happy to hear that their employee is being rather disobedient. The woman then rams her cart into mine to stop me from walking past her. Instead, I try to turn around and leave the other way. And she's not having it. She grabs me and says, I demand to speak to your manager. Now I'm on the verge of crying at this point. I just want out of this situation. I tell her my manager's at home and I don't work here. I just want to check out and go home. This is what sets her off, and when the screaming begins, she says, I just want this video game for my son. It's for Christmas. Why the heck do you want to ruin Christmas for me and my family? I'm sobbing now, as my anxiety gets way worse when people raise their voice at me. So I say to her, I don't work here. She keeps telling me, yes you do, get me that video game. At this point, one of the employees in electronics finally comes over to investigate. He looks at me, sobbing like a child, and then to the Karen, and his shoulders slump like he knows what's going down. He looks at me and says, what seems to be the problem here? I then try my best to explain that this crazy bitch is screaming at me and somehow thinks that I'm an employee. But I'm blubbering and I can't get too many words out, so Karen takes it upon herself to tell the employee what happened. She says, your coworker here is being extremely rude. She's been cursing at me, slammed her cart into me several times to get me to move when I asked her to get a video game, but she just told me to F off. Is that how you talk to customers here? The employee then looks down at my shirt and sighs and says, ma'am, this young lady doesn't work here. She's an employee at this place. Karen then puts her hands on her hips and rolls her eyes so hard that I thought they might roll out of her head. She then says, I just need someone to get me a video game for Christ's sake. The employee then leans on my shopping cart and says, we're pretty busy here, and now I don't know if you're aware, but Christmas is in just 2 days. I'm sorry that we're unable to get to you in a timely manner, but being impatient isn't an excuse to verbally abuse other customers just because their shirt happens to be blue. This is when Karen says, you people are useless. I'll have you know that I'm friends with the manager and he will be hearing about this. I'll be taking my business to GameStop. She then starts to walk away, and I think that's the end of it, but no. For her finale, Karen pushes her shopping cart over, sending everything that was in it skidding and sliding across the floor. She then storms off like Karens do, but not before the employee could wish her a happy holiday. And that's when she turns to the employee, sneers and says, it's effing Merry Christmas. Stop with the happy holidays crap. I then thanked the employee as soon as I could get tears to stop flowing, and I checked out as fast as I could. The lesson I learned is to not go to Walmart under any circumstances during the holidays. I totally agree, guys. Some people are bad enough on regular days, but add the stress of holidays, last-minute shopping, long lines, and you've got everything it takes to make a mega Karen. Okay, people, strap in because this is gonna be a hell of a ride. So I work for a very popular cranberry airline here in Germany. Now, I don't work at the airport, but sometimes I have to check the planes and make sure the cabin crew is rested and that they have their legs all fulfilled. I also have to write reports. My uniform is dark red. I wear dark red slacks, black high heel pumps, a white button down, and a dark red blazer. Now, there's no way that you can mistake me for something else other than an airline employee. So cue Easter. Easter was madness because the price of flights had dropped significantly. Everyone was flying. Children who definitely weren't on spring break yet were traveling. It was really stressful. I spent most of the time at our base airport writing flight reports. I hate writing flight reports, and I thought a coffee would help me get through the task easier. So I got up, left the office, and went to the bakery in the security area of the terminal. The bakery makes the best latte around. Also, the bakery sports a nice white uniform which consists of a white polo shirt with the logo of the bakery on it. I was just about to order my extra big latte when this woman steps in front of me. She basically starts yelling, "Hi, can I get?" and then she rattled down her order. The bakery employee just looked at her and mentioned that I was first and in the middle of ordering something, and that he would deal with me first before he could accept her order. The lady was an older, small lady with very white and long hair. She looked like a grandma, but she destroyed this image by basically screaming at me and the employee. She says, "She's working here. She can get her stuff later. I have a flight to catch." Now at this, I told the bakery dude that it's fine. I can wait. I then asked the lady what kind of flight she was taking, just in case she needed assistance to the gate or something. Unfortunately, she took that as an insult and she says, "You Don't need to know which flight I'm taking. It's not your business. You better clean the display. Look how dirty it is. If I was your boss, I'll have you know that you'd be fired." After saying that, she smeared her little hands on the glass display and told me to wipe it clean. Apparently, she thought I worked at the bakery. I tried to explain multiple times that I was an airline worker and that the flight she's taking is likely to be one of the planes that I'm managing, because 75% of the flights at the airport were operated by us. She then continued screaming, and I stopped talking to her since it didn't make any sense to waste any more time with her. For some reason though, she didn't like my silence. She kept talking and berating me, telling me how bad I was at my job, etc., and I was thinking about following her to the gate to find out where she's flying to, because this lady clearly wasn't stable enough to fly. And that's when she suddenly picked up her suitcase and slams it down on my foot. Now, to clarify, I wasn't prepared to get hit at all. Also, her luggage was really heavy. It was one of those old suitcases that were made out of metal. Upon seeing that, security got called by the employee to the bakery, and they gave me a latte for free. The lady was actually a standby passenger on an overbooked flight, so she was definitely gonna miss it because security was escorting her to their office. It wasn't a flight with the airline I work for, but the cabin crew heard of her behavior and they banned her for the flight anyway. After the ordeal, I got back to the office to complete my flight records, and I sighed because now I need to write up an incident report for the crazy lady who just assaulted me. I just drank my coffee and got it over with. My foot has a bruise as big as a plate, by the way. Yeah, this woman sounds absolutely nutty, guys. Smearing her hands on the glass while taunting OP to clean it, and attacking OP with a suitcase. Yeah, I think she might have had a few marbles loose, or she could have been drunk. Okay, so I had my moment yesterday. I'm in an HVAC school right now, so I get out mid-afternoon most days. Yesterday, I get a call saying that my brand new recliner chair was ready for pickup from the furniture warehouse. I ordered it a month ago and it just got to the distribution center. So I booked it over after class and thought about how great to have a chair that's mine again and not falling apart. My current chair is 14 years old and my daughters tend to claim it when I get up from it for more than 10 seconds. With that being said, I get to the warehouse, go in, get the order processed for pickup, and back my truck to the bay door and wait, as told by customer service. And then the incident happens. The old entitled guy pulls up in a very nice, very well-polished Cadillac right next to me, 2 spaces over from the bay doors, and he just sits there. The guy looks around for a minute, sees me leaning on the tailgate of my truck, and stares at me for probably 30 seconds before he loses patience. I'm obliviously looking at my phone and waiting for delivery of my chair. The old man then says, "Hey!" Now he yells this through his rolled-down car windows, and I heard his yelling, but I didn't care enough to look up. And he repeats himself and says, "Hey, I know you can hear me." He then lays on his car horn at this point. So I say, "What?" He then demands, "Come here, now." I then told him, "No, I'm good." That's when the man calls me a stupid, lazy idiot, and he tells me to get over here and get his furniture order ready. All the while, I'm thinking, okay, this can't really be happening. So I sauntered over and said, "What are you barking about, and why are you yelling at me?" He then tells me, "Because I'm a paying customer, and you are not being paid to sit on your ass, so get in there and get my furniture right now." I say to him, "Oh, okay, now I get it. You think I work here. Well, I don't." He then says, "Yes, you do. You are dressed like a dirty warehouse worker. You're just being a lazy, entitled a-hole." Now keep in mind, the guy's yelling at me, calling me lazy and entitled while sitting in an $80,000 car. I say to him, "Look, old man, if you want your furniture processed, you're gonna have to go inside like everybody else and go to the customer service people to process it. There isn't a curbside service here." He then says to me, "This is your last warning. Go get my furniture." Right about then, the bay door opens and an actual employee comes out with my chair on a dolly. The employee's wearing shorts, sneakers, a harness, and a t-shirt that says the furniture store on it. I'm in a hoodie, long work pants, boots, so no actual resemblance to an employee. The employee then helps me load the chair still boxed up into my truck bed, and I sign the sales receipt for it. Meanwhile, the old entitled dude has finally gotten out and stalling his way over, bitching to the heavens over all the injustices of the world and how stupid idiots are ruining everything. I got the chair all strapped down and hopped into my truck bed, shook the actual employee's hand, got in, and start my truck. The employee must have been used to the insanity of entitled customers because he was completely ignoring the old entitled man. Instead, he just pushes the dolly back in and closed the bay door. The old entitled guy was hollering and cussing up a storm as I started up and drove away. Now, it's not the most satisfying story, but it still ended with a smile on my face. I love how the employee was so over the entitled man's BS and just ignored him. Guys, I've never worked in retail, and I can only imagine how many entitled people the guy has to deal with on a regular basis, to the point where he's just numbed himself like that. So this story happened about 5 years ago. I was working part-time at a place called Ace Hardware. I had semi-retired the year before, so I just wanted to work part-time to keep busy. I had just gotten off work, and I was headed towards the local Walmart where my wife was working, to pick her up. I had gone into the store to pick up a few things instead of just waiting in the car. I was wearing khakis, a light blue polo with the big words Ace on the left chest side. I'm also wearing black shoes. Now, being that I was a paint specialist, I wore different colored polos, instead of the usual red one worn by Ace employees. As I was going by Hardware, headed towards the auto area, I heard Ace is the place. I look over and see a guy who we'll call Joe, a Wally World employee who was behind the paint desk. Now, I knew Joe. I had met him a few times while I was shopping with my wife, so we knew each other. Joe was trying to help a customer of his, but he was having some trouble. Joe's been in the hardware department for around 6 months. He's a real good kid who wants to learn, and I've worked in paint, home improvement, hardware, etc. for about 38 years. So Joe politely asked me if I could help. The customer asked his questions and I gave answers, as well as helpful hints on how to do the project. The customer gets what he needed and thanked me and Joe and goes on his way. Joe thanked me and asked if the wife was getting off soon, which I replied, in about 10 minutes. We chat for a few minutes, and then I go over to Auto to get the wipers I need. Walmart has a little computer thing where you punch in all the information, such as make, model, etc., and it'll tell you exactly what you need. I found a 21-inch wiper, and I was digging through the mess to find another one when I heard the words, "Excuse me." I then turned to look, and found standing next to me the typical Karen. The Karen hairstyle, the huge sunglasses, and she was in her 40s. She was also dressed way too nice to be shopping in a Walmart, and she had enough gold chains to make Mr. T jealous. She then says to me, "You sure took your sweet time in helping that customer in paints, so now you'll help me. I need wipers for my BMW." Now, I do start off trying to be nice. I say to her, "If you don't know how to use the computer here, I can show you." She says, No, you will get them for me. That's why you work in this dump, so do your job." I then say to her, "I don't work here, lady." She says, "Yes, you do. I just saw you helping that man in paints, and you're wearing the uniform." I then point to my chest pocket and say, "Does this say Ace Hardware, or does it say Walmart?" Of course, the Karen ignores my pointing, and she says, "You will get me what I want, or I will get your manager and get you fired." Now, at this point, I had enough of her crap. I grab my second wiper, turned, and start to walk away, and then she starts to scream, "Where the F do you think you're going? Get back here. You can't walk away from a customer. I'll have you fired." Now, a few seconds after the word fired came out of her volcano lips, I feel a hand grab my left shoulder, and dagger-like nails digging into my skin. Now, I want to note that back in 2001, I was diagnosed with sarcoma cancer, which was in my upper left chest area. They removed all the cancer, muscle, whatever padding I have, and all that's left was a thin layer of skin. Her nails pierced my skin. I yelped, grabbed her wrist with my right hand, squeezed her wrist hard, yanked her hand off me, and then turned to push her away from me. She stumbled backwards and fell against the counter and then on her butt. She's sitting on the floor screaming that I attacked her out of nowhere. At this time, Joe comes around the aisle and I yell at Joe to get the manager and security. I then open my polo and put my right hand in to check as my chest hurt. And yes, I was bleeding. She had torn the skin. I grabbed some tissues to put in place, and at the time, the customer service manager and security comes running over. The manager yells, "What the heck is going on here?" And that's when Karen yells, "Your employee attacked me." The manager asked, "Which employee? Him?" pointing at Joe. She then says, "No, him," pointing to me. The manager then tells her, "He doesn't work here. He works for Ace Hardware. Look at his shirt." Karen screams, "I want him fired. I want him arrested. I'm going to sue." In the meantime, the security comes over and was talking to me. I tell him what happened and I say that I think they should call the cops. He also called EMTs as the tissue I was using was now blood-soaked, and Karen's still screaming. She's saying, "I want him fired. I want him arrested. He assaulted me sexually." The woman just kept going on and on. She was yelling down the aisle at me, as well as security and the manager. The security told Joe to get me a chair as well as a bunch of towels, and to also try to get a hold of my wife as well. About 10 minutes later, 2 police officers walked in. Officer 1 goes to talk to Karen, who kept adding more and more things to the list of what I did to her. It seems not only did I beat her up, I then tried to grab her chest to cop a feel, and then steal her purse. By this time, the EMTs and my wife were with me. My shirt was off and my upper chest was bloody. That's when officer number 1 called the security guy over and asked to see security footage. The 2 go off, and Karen gets real quiet when she hears security cameras were mentioned. After about 10 minutes, the EMTs are finishing up and wanted to take me to the hospital, which I declined. The officer and security come back and came over to me. The cops then ask in low voices if I want to press charges, which I said yes. They both turned and head towards the Karen, and that's when one cop pulls out his cuffs and she screams, "Arrest him, not me!" She then throws her purse at the cop and hit him in the face, and then she turns to run, but cop number 2 does a flying tackle and took her to the floor, and he had her handcuffed in under a minute. The woman was charged with assault, giving a false police report, assaulting a police officer, resisting arrest, etc., etc. I myself had to have my arm in a sling for several weeks so it would heal. I had to wear this gooey covered gauze while it did. Guys, it's just so crazy to think that these situations escalate so quickly from, "Hey, can you help me get my wipers for my BMW?" to full out attacking a police officer and getting charged and taken away. Like, is it entitlement? Or do some people just need to really work on controlling their emotions? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, Karen and her boyfriend steal OP's house and refuse to leave, saying they need it more. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.